Recording and hello everyone. We are in the middle of Sukkot and we've been off for a couple of weeks and we just finished up chapter 40 and we're going to start chapter 41 and we are in Lessons in Tanya. This is a class for um, mostly for non-Jews, I guess, and we're studying Lessons in Tanya. We're studying Chabad Hasidus. We're in Lessons in Tanya, which is commentary on the Tanya. We're in the second part. No, excuse me. The first part of Lessons in Tanya of the Tanya called Likutei Amarim, compilations of sayings. And we are in chapter 41. We're going to start chapter 41 today. So, um, as mentioned in the title page of Tanya, this work is based on the verse, "For this thing is very near to you, in your mouth and in your heart, that you may do it." So we're talking about Torah here. This means that observing the Torah and the mitzvot with one's heart, with a love and fear of God. So there's the right side of God, the right side, which is Chesed, and the left side. Ernestine's funny. And with a love and fear of God is very near with simple reach. So just as we're made in the image of Hashem, we have a left and a right side. Hey, Ernestine, thanks for joining. We just started.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we're in chapter 41 of Likutei Amarim here. With a love and fear of God, the right side and the left side. The Alter Rebbe devoted the first 25 chapters of his work to an explanation of the role of love and fear. He says awe here because fear, has that negative connotation of like, oh, you're just everything's fearful. It's the side of gevura, restriction, uh, and strength. And if you think of all the things that are um, require strength, sometimes it's not, you think of it as first as maybe judgment and lashing out and harshness. Sometimes, though, you need to use strength to refrain so that you can be kind. For instance, there are people who have much of the right side of Chesed, too much love. They're overflowing with it too much, and they start to give that over to the Sitra Achra or the other side, and they don't restrict their Chesed, um, and they can shatter a person's vessels, so to speak, um, and that Hesed just goes where it's not supposed to. Um, we're kind of seeing that today. I think when we have a nation of Hesed, of kindness, and we have this huge abundance of Hesed, but we also have to make sure that we restrict the kindness so it doesn't flow into the wrong hands. He also explained how they may be readily attained. It is the love of God, wrote the Alter Rebbe, that motivates one to fulfill all the positive mitzvot. So, right side is Hesed, love, positive mitzvahs, which is also so positive mitzvot, the positive commandments, which are the do's, the things that are permissible. Um, this is the right side of this is the side of what's called klipat noga, where the fourth klipa, which is you have the left side, the shalosh klipot tameot, the three completely impure husks. It's too hard, so to speak, to find goodness in them, and are to refrain. We are to use gevura to restrict ourselves from them. Those things. Don't give your life force. Don't give your life force to those things. Um, for instance, non-kosher animals. We're not supposed to be consuming them. Now it's permissible for B'nai Noach. I don't want to get into all that stuff really, but from this level, it really is Shalos klipotamel, the completely impure husks that those things are derived from, and those are things that are isser forbidden. They are isser. They are chained. They are tied to the sitra achra. They cannot be elevated. Think of it like a think of your soul or souls like balloons, hot air balloons. They want to ascend, but they have things that can tie them down or things that can elevate them, or both. They can things can be working at the same time. That's kind of what's going on with a human soul, is that there's things that are tied, that are the sides of klipa, that are the don'ts, the negative commandments. Don't do this. Don't steal, for instance. If you steal, you start to give over your life force, your chesed, um, or you to or somebody else's life force and chesed into the klipa, into a place where it's not supposed to be, and it creates an impurity in the world and yourself and others, etc. That stealing cannot be elevated, for instance, and there are other things that can't be elevated. And positive mitzvahs, on the other hand, those are things that can be elevated. It causes a love, and you can use your love, for instance, and do positive mitzvahs. A good example would be charity. It's a positive mitzvah to give charity to in a proper manner. So that would be a way to try to ascend the soul. So if a soul was like a balloon, it'd be like adding helium to the balloon or some such, causing it to want to rise. Um, but if you're still attached, like with the sandbags and the ropes to the ground of Isser, you cannot fully ascend. And that's kind of like the idea here in these 26 chapters. Um, he must be imbued with a love for God and a desire to cleave to him, for performing them will enable him to cleave to God. So doing Torah and mitzvahs, that is what you reveals godliness. Godliness is already there, but it has to be revealed. So when we do a mitzvah, we are revealing and attaching from our perspective to Hashem. From Hashem's perspective, he is already attached to everything. But from our perspective, and it's not so. We have to actually um, do Torah and mitzvahs in order to reveal godliness in this world. That's what it means by unifying the name. It's all the worlds need to be unified, but we live in this world of materiality or seemingly materiality, and God is here, but we have to make him comfortable. We have to make it a dwelling place for him. And how do we do that? By revealing godliness. And how do we reveal godliness? Through the Torah and mitzvot. Similarly, fear of God, so the left side now of God, lies at the root, the shorish of one's observance of the prohibitive mitzvahs, as I mentioned. When one stands in true fear and awe of God. So think of like standing at the top of the Grand Canyon and you're like, wow, you are amazed. Like, wow, look at this creation. That would be that left side. He will refrain from transgressing and thereby rebelling against his will. So if you focus on the awe, that there's an eye that sees and a ear that hears, and everything is known by Hashem, that there's this awe that can come about when you focus on those things. And if you focus on it, then it says he will refrain from transgressing and thereby rebelling against God's will. Uh, there's so many things going on, like with AI and computers now. We're starting to see where people are starting, even if people do not believe in Hashem, they're coming to terms with reality that everything that they do is being watched and heard and seen by everything. So even in this world of concealment, where people are concealed from their perspective from Hashem, they are they are still having this sorry, they're still having this revelation that there is an eye that sees and an ear that hears. even if they don't believe in Hashem. So it's very interesting what's going on in the world today. And it's honestly, it's freaking people out. People are, people don't know how to deal with what's going on in the world right now. In truth, it really everything that's going on, all the crazy things, is really part of this plan. Conversely, let's see here. In the last few chapters, the Alter Rebbe went on to explain that love and fear are the wings. Okay, so you have the two sides representative in Hashem, which are the right side, left side being the side of Gevura, the side of strength and awe. And then you have the right side, which is the side of love, Hesed, kindness, um, and the like. True kindness, not a selfish kindness, not like virtue signaling and the like. Um, Basically, what is true kindness? If you see if you need to help your fellow and he gets help from you, uh, that's kind, right? But if he needs that kindness and he ends up receiving that kindness that he needed from somebody else, you're not sad about it. You're actually still happy that he receives the kindness, the life force that he needed. If you, in other words, you're not supposed to be an intermediary. And if you feel that you are so important that it has to be through you, that's a red flag. That means that that's like a virtue signal. That's kind of like a selfish hesed, a kindness, and that lacks bittul, that lacks that self-will nullification that a person should have. And that's a sign like, oh, okay, I've got a problem here. I'm not being selfless. I'm actually being selfish. And that's in Chabad Hasidus. That's kind of like a very strong. That's a good determination, determinant. That's a good definition. Um, because there are two different types of people in the world. There are people who um, do kindness for selfish motives, and there are people that do kindness for selfless motives. One is from what's called the klipat noga, which is this right side, the things that are permissible and can be elevated. And then there's souls that are from the left side from the side of severity and selfishness and the like. Um, and even though godliness is still in that klipa and still in those things, it's opaque. It's very opaque for a human to see those things and to be for a normal person to be able to unlock that from another individual. It's actually said during the times of Mashiach in the second half of the Messianic age, that klipa will be obliterated. That appears to me, in other words, it's saying you got to be a really righteous individual to be able to pierce through that klipa of a person to make them sensitive. Um, okay, so in the last few chapters, we haven't even got to the Tanya. I'm sorry, guys. We're still reading the lessons on Tanya. So this is the commentary called Lessons in Tanya. And then down here is the actual Tanya. So in the last few chapters, the Alter Rebbe went on to explain that love and fear are the wings that elevate one's mitzvot. So there's uh in the sphere that he's talking about, where there's love and fear, these emotional attributes. This is not in the world of Asiya, but this is in a higher world called the world of Yetzira, the world of formation. And excuse me, it's oh cool. Hey Zach, how are you, bud? I don't know if Zach's been in this group before or not. Decided to invite him. I saw him on Facebook, so like, hey, this guy's getting started, so let's go. Hey Zach, we're just getting started. We've been here about 10 minutes or so. We haven't even started reading the Tanya yet, so we're still in the commentaries here. But But there's the left side, the side of Gevura, it has a wing, so to speak, and then you have the right side, the side of Hesed and love. That also has a wing. So what happens is this is really cool. When you are going through the proper channel in this world, when you have an element of bittul, you're doing kindness, you and with an awe of Hashem, a fear, because there's a right side and a left side. You're using these wings to ascend. So there, for instance, there's a section in the Siddur, the prayer, the order of prayer book called the Siddur, um, and Teilat Hashem, the Chabad Siddur. There's for instance, a section where it says Kadosh, 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 which is symbolic of the angels. And when a human being is saying that, though, they're taking on those angelic like aspects. And this is what we're talking about here with these two wings. So when you do kindness, and this is something that the last few weeks I've really been thinking so deep about this world of Yetzirah. When you do kindness and you have this awe, you are developing these wings that are ascending. You might not even realize that you have them. This is how powerful it is. And I think this is how far humanity has come through the past few thousand years, as the West really has been injected a little bit with Torah. And it's going to sound weird, but it is actually through Christianity, because before the pagan Roman culture was pagan. It was like it was basically a plain of Odazara. But what happened was it got injected somehow, and you can study writings and whatever, but it got injected with a little bit of Torah. And I'm not going to say they're actual, what manuscripts are. I don't know what is authentic. I'm not going to talk too deeply about Christianity, but the point is that it's just an objective fact that there are people in Western culture through the past 2,000 years picked up by the Roman Empire, and they accepted manuscripts that do have elements of Torah in it. It's just a fact. And so what happens then is that uh, this whole Roman Empire and even the United States as an extension of that has been exposed to Torah. I'm not going to quantify how much, but it's just a fact. It just has been exposed to Torah. And so what's happening is that people are developing in this world of Yetzirah, particularly with kindness, and we've seen it throughout our culture, that there are true elements of kindness. There are people that truly have kindness, and what they're doing is they're developing these wings. This is amazing. And if you think about it, like people, oh, you're such an angel, and even though that is technically a figure of speech, there are instances where people do think of others as like, you are my angel, like you just saved me, and yada yada. This is the world of Yetzirah that people are developing right now, and they have been. Um, of course, Yisrael has been for thousands and thousands of years, but you're definitely seeing that. It's kind of like just like a personal revelation I've had of recent, which is even in art, you see, people having wings and the like, and they put wings on these angelic human figures, whether they know them or not. My point is, what am I getting at? They are developing this love and fear and awe of Hashem, even if they don't see Hashem as Hashem, because that's a more of an intellectual thing, and that's a higher world. It's a different world. It's a world of Berea and above. But my point is, people are starting to ascend to that level. And like for instance, um, I know I'm sorry, I'm on my soapbox right now, but Charlie Kirk, God love him, man. Yeah, he was like a friend. I never met the guy, but he was like a friend, and he was studying Torah. He was starting to study Torah. He was learning about Shabbat and all this stuff. He was still in Christianity, and but the point is, when you're even at those levels, that's still in the world of Yetzirah. And so what he was doing is he was peering into the Torah. He was peering into the Torah to see what it saw. Was he at the level of Berea? Maybe not, but at least he was looking into it. And how do you look into that next level? By being in Yetzirah. And why is this important? As probably many of you guys are Americans like myself. It means that there's a good portion of America. Well, and you see it throughout social media now. People have been for the past, I don't know, what has it been, 3 weeks, month, or whatever, identifying with Charlie Kirk. And oh, I've watched his videos, I never knew, and yada yada. They see that aspect of him. What that means is there's many Americans, millions of Americans that are ascending into this world of Yetzirah, this world of formation with these wings. And boy, wouldn't it be amazing if we can get these people connected with Torah? Um, so, so the love and fear are the wings that elevate one's mitzvot. So when people are starting to do mitzvahs, it's now elevating their mitzvahs using the love and fear, causing them to ascend to the sphere of the upper worlds. So this is kind of what I was talking about. Conversely, mitzvot fulfilled without the spiritual intent fostered by the love and fear of God are likened to a body bereft of its soul. So it was taught in earlier classes in the earlier chapter that, for instance, a Yisrael, let's say he's studying Torah. He's not doing it for the proper intent. It's not that he's doing it to be mean or negative or do things perversely or whatever, but for whatever reason, he's just not studying Torah with kavana. He's not praying with kavana. What happens is those things that he does spiritually kind of get set aside into that world. But what happens is when he starts doing them with kavana, they never went away. What happens is he gets to pick them up and he holds it in his hand. Um, in chapter 41, the Alter Rebbe now goes on to say that fear of God is the beginning and core of divine service. This is not only, so this is kind of what I'm talking about with a lot of people um, in our Western culture, particularly in the United States, I believe. They are at this, I think they're either at coming to or at this stage where people are really searching for questions. Excuse me, searching for answers to their questions. And I don't think through trauma of their own, but I just don't think Yisrael is doing a good enough job in sharing the Torah. Like I said, I'm not blaming them harshly. I think it's a lot of it's doing due to trauma from non-Jewish communities in the past, but they're scared, quite honestly. Like they don't want to be killed. They've for thousands of years they've been just trying hard not to be murdered. That It's hard, I think, for the Jewish community to study the non-Jewish sugya, the non-Jewish issue in Torah. It's just like hard for them, and that's one of the reasons why I feel like we as non-Jews need to start looking into this ourselves. Um, so this is the core of the divine service. This is not only regarding the negative precepts, but also with regard to the positive precepts. While it is true that love of God motivates one's observance of the positive commands, nevertheless, the observance of these commands too must be impelled by some measure of fear as well. So Hesed is considered to be a higher thing than the left. For instance, like during washing of hands, when you're holding out your hands before a meal with bread, you wash your hands. Maybe you guys don't, that's fine, but a Yisrael does. They usually hold their right hand up a little higher than their left because Hesed is considered to be higher or deeper or however you want to look at it than Kavura in this particular world. For avoda, divine service implies an analogy with the manner which an Eved servant serves his master. So the root word of avoda is actually Eved, service out of fear. Fear of God is therefore the beginning and the mainstay of spiritual service. So if you think about it, like yeah, it's an Eved is a they're going to do it out of fear first. Um, Sometimes you have to scare your kids or whatever, and they'll do it out of fear, and then will come the understanding later, or maybe the resentment if they never get to the level of understanding, unfortunately. But like, so you have to watch them, right? You can't scare them too much, but um, like it said, the fear of Hashem is the beginning of wisdom. Um, So you have to look at it as an entry point. It's not a final stage. Don't leave your kids in the dark, heaven forbid. Um, One must, however, constantly bear in mind what is the beginning of the divine service as well as its core and root. This means, although fear is the root of turn away from evil, and love is the root of do good, so this is very important. Fear is the shoresh of turn away from evil. And so you have the turning, and then the love to do good is the progression, the good progression of something. I.e., fear of God is what basically urges one to refrain from evil and not to transgress the negative precepts, while love of God is what basically motivates one to perform good deeds and positive commands. Nevertheless, it is not sufficient to awaken the love alone to do good. But at the very least, before performing the positive command, one must first arouse the innate fear which lies hidden in the heart of every Jew, every Yisrael. I like to say Yisrael. People will say, oh, Jews and Yisrael are the same thing. I try to be accurate in my speech, so I'm going to say Yisrael. Um, Words have meanings. Um, which lies hidden in the heart of every Yisrael, not to rebel against the supreme king, the holy king, king of kings, excuse me, the holy one, blessed be he, as has been stated above. So that this fear should manifest itself in his heart, or at least in his mind. Um, doesn't say that though. It says on his face. Um, I might not be translating that. Let's check my grammar here. Oh, this is a hard grammar. I'm not sure if I can figure this one out. I'm not translating that at all. This is saying something completely different than is revealed. Okay. Revelation in his face upon. Okay, I don't want to waste your guys' time, but for some reason it says panim, which has multiple meanings, like deep meanings. The panim, like a pani, like panimi, face means kind of like an interface, how you see something. It's like a mask. It's how something is perceived from the outside. And it represents a little bit of what is inside, but is not usually the actual thing that it's completely. In other words, it's trying to lower itself, its wisdom. The teacher is lowering its wisdom so that the students that is less wise can consume the wisdom. So it's wrapping it, it's encapsulating it in something that the child or the student can understand. Um, anyways, I'm trying to deduce why they would use pawning there, and it could be I'm just completely wrong on my grammar, um, which is a possibility. Optimally, Yisrael should be able to create a feeling of fear in his heart through meditating upon God's greatness. If, however, this proves to be beyond his capacity, I would recommend, like this is definitely a thing for non-Jews. He should at least arouse the innate fear which lies hidden in his heart. So he's talking about the mental awe, like there's a mental awe and then there's an emotional awe. And this is what he's talking about, arousing it in the heart. This degree of fear is attained to all inasmuch as it does not require such profound meditation. So, like, for instance, a non-Jew who's just learning about Hashem, doesn't know Hashem or whatever, every human being is going to have fear. Just they understand fear. Um, so I think that's kind of what he's talking about there. This innate fear may be aroused either A, to such a degree that it actually felt in his heart, or B, if the individual is incapable of invoking palpable fear in his heart, he will at least be able to summon up his innate fear in his mind so that he will be able to apprehend and experience the fear of God intellectually. This means that in order to arouse within himself the latter category of fear, he should at least contemplate in his mind the greatness of the blessed Ein Sof and his kingship. Ein Sof. Um, it doesn't say or Ein Sof here. It says Ein Sof. So I don't know why they're telling you it's God's infinite light, because that would be the or Ein Sof, the light. Anyways, in his mind, the greatness of the blessed Ein Sof and his kingship. To arouse the former category of fear, that which is palpably felt in the heart, one must engage one's da'at in profound meditation. So da'at is like pseudosphere in the seichel, in the intellect. Um, he who is unable to do so should contemplate, at least superficially, God's greatness. So just think about it. Look at, like I said, like the Grand Canyon or something, um, which extends to all the worlds, both higher and lower. Malchut kol almim, olamim. Bearing in mind that the greater the king's dominion, the more awe it inspires in his subjects. And let him further consider that he fills all worlds. This is a big phrase within Hasidus. Mamala, Mamale Kol Almin. He fills all worlds. So this is a big thing. And like Sue, I know you guys just started and you guys weren't here, but this is a big thing. Hashem literally is everywhere. Um, from our perspective, because our bodies are enlivened with souls that are from a klipa, a shell, a husk called klipat noga or shalosh klipot tameo, whatever. But it's from a klipa. From our perspective, then Hashem seems concealed. He seems like he's distant. But the truth is, he fills all these worlds. And it's our perception that is probably wrong. Animating them with an indwelling life force that creates beings that created beings can experience and comprehend. So he created us using these forces for us to seemingly have an existence of our own, but just so that we will create a dwelling place for him. He wants us to do that. That is the purpose of our lives. That is the purpose of life. Um, Short and sweet. And how do we do that? Through Torah and mitzvahs, by studying Torah and doing kindness and starting these things very simply. And he encompasses all worlds. Soivev kol almin. So there's Mamaile kol almin and Soivev kol almin, i.e., he also animates them with a life force that transcends the experience and comprehension of created beings. As it is written, do I not fill heaven and earth? Yet he leaves aside the creatures of the higher worlds and the creatures of the lower worlds. Neither the higher nor the lower creatures represent the Creator's ultimate intention. He therefore does not bestow his kingship upon them so that he be called their God and King. Rather, he uniquely bestows his kingship upon his people, Yisrael, in general. For God is known as King of Yisrael, and upon him in particular. For a man is obligated to say, for my sake was the world created. And Yisrael should remind himself that the whole purpose and intent of creation, viz. God's sovereignty, relates to himself specifically, that God become king over him. The realization that God bestows his kingship upon each individual in particular touches a responsive chord within one. He is then more apt to demand of himself that he accept the heavenly yoke, the heavenly yoke of heaven, the yoke of Torah. And he, for his part, accepts his kingship upon himself, that he be the king over him, to serve him and do his will in all kinds of servile work, of avoda, of servile work, of eved, avoda, slave work, basically. I don't know how to translate that. An eved, a servant, servant servitude, or slave work. I don't know. This acceptance of the yoke of divine service was required by all Yisrael. And like the concept of an eved is like your seichel is not, you have an intellect, you have a seichel, but you're not understanding what it is you're doing yet. You have to have a master tell you what to do. Um, The Rebbe points out that the Alter Rebbe will now go on to say that the above meditation aimed at awakening innate awe in one's mind does not suffice. An individual must also realize that God not only bestows his kingship upon him in a general manner, but that he also does so in a, so to speak, personal manner. And the Alter Rebbe's words, and behold, Hine, very interesting. God himself stands over him. The world Hine is Metatronic. It's a gematria of 60. So it's from Bereshis. And behold, God stands over him, and the whole world is full only with his glory. Um, and not only being omnipresent does he see everything, but moreover, he scrutinizes him in particular. This is very interesting because he's saying Hine, which is 60, which is Metatronic. But he's also talking about Soive, which is also Metatronic. In a bedtime Shema prayer right after, um, standing over the bed of Shlomo HaMelech is 60 fighting men of Yisrael. And it says Soivev, it uses the word Hine, and I think it might even say stands over him while he sleeps. So I don't know how germane that is to what we're talking about, but it is interesting. The whole world is full only with his glory. Not only being omnipresent does he see everything, but moreover, he scrutinizes him in particular. I think I think the whole aspect of being soivev is going to come in line with what's called klip with the noga and klipat noga and having a light that shines from the klipa. And why is that important? Because um, there are Yisrael's animal soul, their nefesh behemo is from this klipat noga, which is selfless, it has an element of selflessness to it. It is truly kind. And also, there are certain types of non-Jews that are called Hasidei Umoto Alam that emanate from this klipat noga, that fourth shining klipa, the shimmering shell, their shimmering husk. And what is the noga? The noga is it's a spark of the Shekinah. Um, and that's why I'm bringing this up basically, because this is all a prolapsing out of the Ein Sof and the Or Ein Sof, which we've talked about above already. The Alter Rebbe has talked about it. I know it's like maybe deeper stuff. I don't know, but uh, and but moreover, he scrutinizes him in particular, so he's watching over what you do. Um, and searches his reins and heart, i.e., and I think it even does it says Panini here. Anyways, um, and searches his reins and heart, i.e., his innermost thoughts and emotions, to see if he is serving him as is fitting. Therefore, he must serve in his presence with awe and fear, i.e., notes the Rebbe, not merely like one who is located in the king's domain, but moreover like one standing before the king. You're seeing the king's face. Okay? This is very important. You're not in the externalities. You are face. face to face here, but eventually face in face. One must meditate profoundly and at length on this concept according to the capacity of apprehension of his brain and thought and the time available to devote to this contemplation. So the Alter Rebbe knows that we are not perfect human beings, that we are limited, but we still need to try our best. That's one of the really great things I love about the Alter Rebbe. He doesn't say just try your best. Maybe that's not the proper thing, but to me, that's like how I translate this. He's like, you only have a certain capacity, James, in your brain to do something. Just do it. Just try your best with that capacity. There's only so many hours in a day. Do whatever you can in those hours, you know? So, reason why I say that is because I think people think, oh, I just can't do this. It's like, oh, this is really hard. No, you just do your utmost. Try your best. Um, And it doesn't mean like when I mean try your best, I'm not saying like do a bunch of mitzvahs that are just like really hard for you to do or you maybe shouldn't even be doing or whatever. Like don't fully try and keep Shabbos like a Yisrael or I'm not saying you do you, but I'm saying there are coming from out of the non-Jewish perspective, like there are way more important things to be worried about. For one, just what is Hashem like? Am I worshiping Hashem properly? Am I serving him properly? What is Hashem like? Like, what is he actually like? Am I making sure I'm not committing avodah zarah in my mind? Of that nature, which is why I love studying Tanya because it talks basically all about that. Um, and it fits within the mitzvah, even if it's a ben noach mitzvah of eno avodah zarah. Don't do avodah zarah, lo avodah zarah, right? So um, people will be like, "Oh, you can't study Hasidus, you can't study this deep stuff." Like, doesn't make sense. It's. I need to make sure I'm not doing avodah zarah. Like, I'm going to plumb the depths of not doing avodah zarah. I'm not going to half uh, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Haphazardly do this. Haphazardly do this. So it's very important what we're doing, what we're studying. We have to know Hashem, just as the like it says, the whole world will know Hashem, like the waters cover the seafloor. And we're just fulfilling that. One must meditate profoundly and at length at this concept, according to the capacity of it and of apprehension of his brain. Okay. So you're like, wow, man, James, I don't get this yet, or it doesn't matter. You don't have to just get it, just study it, just study it. Eventually you will, but it's not so much the point of making sure you get it, it's the process. Because that process is has revelations within it. Matter of fact, there might even be more revelations in the process, I think, than in the actual thing you're searching for. Um, okay, so according to the capacity of apprehension of his brain and thought, and the time available to devote to this contemplation, this time being before he engages in the study of Torah or before the performance of a commandment, such as before putting on tali or tefillin. This meditation will enable him to then serve God with all. This could be any mitzvah. This could be charity. Am I doing charity for the right reasons? Am I just trying to puff myself up? One of the best ways to give charity is in secret. Make sure nobody sees it. Uh, there are different levels of charity. I mean, if somebody has to see it, or if you actually need a messenger in order to deliver the charity, that's fine. But try to do it anonymously. Like um, it's it's a bigger blessing. Um, you actually understand a likeness of Hashem because it's basically a way how Hashem gives charity. And so you're drawing closer to the aspect of be holy because I'm holy. And people will tell you, well, James, you can't do that. You're not Jewish. That's not a thing. They're taking things out of context. What they're saying is you're an idolater, and idolaters can't do that, which is true. I there are idolaters that cannot do that because they're doing avodah zarah. But why would you label me an idol worshiper? Why would you label others who are clearly not idol worshippers idol worshippers? It doesn't make sense. In other words, why are you being prejudiced? Instead, we need to start telling people you are made in the image of Hashem. You are made in the image of God. What do you need? What help do you need? You know, what yeah, like how what do you need to be holy? What points are you having? Where's the hiccup? And where are your hangups? And like how can I help you? Because you are my brother and I want to help you, right? That's how we should be. And so I really resent, I don't understand the hang up of well, you're a non-Jew, you're an idolater. It doesn't make sense. Um, People don't understand history of avodah zarah. People are made in the image of Hashem. People are made in the image of God initially, even created. It's said in the law in Nidah that every human being is given a soul in their mother's womb, a second soul. They're taught the Torah. They swear an oath to be righteous and be not wicked. But what happens is they forget everything when they come out of the womb. This harsh, the reality of this world is so harsh, and sin creepeth at the door, which is the opening of the womb. So people get in shock, all these angelic forces, which is just the world. We call it the world, but it's really created from Hashem through his angels and the like. It's shocking. It's crazy. And we have this post-traumatic stress of being born that we forget the Torah that we were taught. We're forget our oath. But what happens is we kind of things start to resonate with us, which is why you guys are here. The Torah resonates with us. Why does it resonate with us? Why do I feel like I'm supposed to be doing good things? It's because you're remembering your oath and you are remembering and uniting with the Torah that you were taught. And this is very important. And this is something that people are not teaching others. Yisrael's had thousands of years of head start, and they've forgotten their mission. They've just read a week ago, the book of Jonah, where Jonah was supposed to go to a bunch of non-Jews and preach Torah to them. And look all the problems that he had. He didn't want to. It's like you can't forget your mission. And so we have to remember, our mission. Doesn't mean you're Jewish, doesn't mean you're Israel. It means you're a human being. Um, let's see here. Okay, so this meditation will enable us to then serve God with awe. The Alter Rebbe now goes on to explain another form of meditation. Unlike the above thoughts, which should preface divine service in general, This meditation relates to the particular mitzvah that the individual is about to perform, to the content of this mitzvah, its distinct effect, and its influence on the soul. This is very important. Uh, this is where I love studying Hasidus, um, because, like, for instance, there's a book called Derek Mitzvah Secha, The Ways of the mitzvahs, and it talks about, it's not all the mitzvahs, but it talks about the inyanim and the panemius, the inner aspects of the mitzvahs. Like, what do they do? Why do you do them? Or why does a Yisrael do them and the like? Very important stuff. And it's like, oh, so it's just interesting to know, because it's like there are people that come from the non-Jewish world and all of a sudden they want to just do mitzvahs. They think that's what it is. It's about doing all the mitzvahs. And uh, but there's deeper aspects to it. So it's like, well, what are you doing? If you don't know what you're doing, and if you're not commanded to do them, like, what are you doing? Like, do you know what it is that you're doing? Because it said here, even Yisrael at the beginning, they don't know what they're doing. Like, where does it say it? It's like, you're like a slave. You're doing the servile work. The master's just telling you to do it. And that's been the role. And I've lived in the Jewish community for a decade. And it's like, if it wasn't for them having that ability to just do what Hashem wants them to do, the Torah would be lost. And thank God it wasn't up to non-Jews, because why? Non-Jews always have to ask, why are we doing this stuff? Yisrael doesn't ask. Yisrael just does. And then they ask. Well, they'll do it and be like, oh, they'll put on the tefillin, and then maybe, a few years later, like, why do we do this? But that's what keeps things going. That's what keeps the Torah going. If you asked questions first and you were looking for answers first, guess what? In the infinitude of questions and answers, nothing would get done as those questions approach infinity. You have to do first, and then ask the questions and receive the questions. It's actually one of the things that revelations that kind of brought me to Torah and Judaism was that. Um, it's also the greatest hindrance, uh, because as a non-Jew, you come out of you. How do you come out of avodah zarah? By asking questions. You got all these questions that nobody could answer. It's like Avraham had all these questions too, and it's like, I don't know if we should be doing this, guys. I don't think we should be bound down to these idols. And oh, well, it's just what's in your heart that matters. Well, then why are we doing it though? It's like, it doesn't quite seem right. And I don't think so, guys. And it's like, then you start learning, oh, there's this Torah, and I kind of agree with it. So what happens though? We carry that over with us into Torah and Judaism, where it's like we just ask them questions a bunch, and it's really hard for us to get into the mindset of doing and not asking questions. Um, The Alter Rebbe now goes on to explain another form of meditation. Unlike the above thoughts, which should preface divine service in general, this meditation relates to the particular mitzvah that the individual is about to perform, to the content of this mitzvah, its distinct effect and its influence on the soul. I just realized I just read that paragraph twice. He should also reflect how the light of the blessed Ein Sof, okay, so that's the Or Ein Sof here, which I was trying to refer to earlier. He just was one of the first times in the Tanya that he mentions just the Ein Sof. So they're they're really, you're not supposed to separate Ein Sof from the Or Ein Sof, really. Like, there's not a thing to separate, but it's just like anything talking about Hashem, for our human minds to grasp. Uh, it has to be, from our perspective. So, which encompasses all worlds and pervades all worlds, and which is identical with the higher will. which is, yeah, you just said what I said basically in a better way. Previous chapters have stated that God's will is the source of the life force, excuse me, that animates all worlds in both a transcendental and an indwelling mode. So his higher will, which is clothed in the letters and wisdom of the Torah. So it's like if we meditate on this light that emanates from the Ein Sof, like how do you do that? Like how did Moshe, what, that's some next level, right? It's a whole nother level. But thank God we have something called the Torah, which is the higher will is enclosed in these letters and the wisdom of the Torah. So I think I talked about that when the class first started. So the wisdom is literally enclosed in us for to interact with it. It's kind of like, say you have an invisible man, and the only way to interact or see the visible man is for him to put on a garment, like to put a sheet over him or something like that. Then you go, oh yeah, I can kind of like say there's a glove. He puts on a glove. Oh, and now I know where his hand is. I can shake his hand. Um, it's something for the human, our animal soul mind to grasp. And then once we grasp it down here, so to speak, then we can ascend with the wisdom because we are made in the image of Hashem. We have a seichel, we have an intellect. Then we can ascend that thought, that thinking, that wisdom. It's like when you're studying Torah and you hear a ruling, and what happens is you agree with the ruling, and you're like, you know what? That was my ruling too. And or maybe you haven't even studied the Torah yet, and you had a certain ruling, and you're like reasoning with yourself, well, it should be this way because this, that, and this. And then what happens, like in a year or something, you've read the Torah, and it turns out you were right. This is the same way the Torah describes it. That means you're miskaven to the Torah. That means you understand it. You're like, oh wow, so that is where you're getting into this wisdom of where you actually know the wisdom. You actually can you understand it. That means you're uniting with that wisdom. And if somebody tells you, well, you're not Jewish, so you shouldn't be studying that, that's not true at all. Even at a basic level, even if somebody were to tell you that, you can always tell them, well, the Rambam and the Talmud says that even an Akum, even an idolater, can study the Sheva Mitzvot B'nai Noah, can study the seven laws of the children of Noah. What is that? That is Torah, which that means it is the wisdom of Hashem. Any letter of Torah, any piece of Torah, if you're meditating on it, you're understanding, you understand it, you are uniting with the wisdom of Hashem, just flat out. And what is that? That means you're drawing down a nefesh elokis. That means you're drawing down a godly soul. Does that mean a godly soul is going to feel comfortable in you and like in your seichel? And like, I don't know about that. I mean, you're going to want to make sure that you're try to do as much Torah as possible so that that godly soul can have a dwelling place and it feels welcome, right? Um, you don't want it to go makif. You don't want it to just come down for a little bit and then just escape because it can't handle what you're doing or whatever. And so that's a little deeper level, but that's important for non-Jews to understand. it's important to anybody and understand, but I think it definitely applies to non-Jews. You'll say, "Oh no, you can't have a godly soul. You can't do this. You can't do that." Or the formula is here, and I haven't seen anything that contradicts the formula. So, like you're made in the image of Hashem. You're able to study Torah, even if it is the Sheva mitzvahs, even if it's just don't steal. Is that not the wisdom of Hashem? And if that is the wisdom of Hashem, then you're uniting with that godly soul, as I've mentioned. And the Alter Rebbe talks about in like chapters 4 through 7 of Likutei Amarim and in other places. That is how one brings down a godly soul, a nefesh elokis, not just an animal soul. And I remember 10 years ago, 6 years ago, people would, no, you don't have a godly soul. But I'm not seeing that where that's stated at all. Um, they're misreading, uh, misreading about the Umotalam, the unkind ones of the peoples of the world, the selfish people. You have to have an element of bittul to receive a nefesh elokis, a godly soul. You have to have empty space in your vessel that is welcoming to Hashem. If it doesn't, if you're just full of selfishness, you're not going to have that welcoming space. You're not going to be able to interact within your seichel, that nefesh elokis. You're going to constantly reject it. Oh, I hate, this, that, and blah, blah, blah. People have been so perverted in their minds that like there is no space for Hashem and God from their perspective. Like they don't want anything to do with it. And it's very sad, but that's kind of like an analogy. Like they don't have a space for that. They don't want anything to do with it. Um, it's very sad. I'm not a tzaddik to be able to break them out of that. Um, but that's kind of like where we're at. Um, but my whole point in this, like why I'm one of the major reasons of why I wanting to do this class is to explore this concept of that any human being, they're made in the image of God. They have the vessels, so to speak, that can be rectified and formed to hold nefesh elokis and be holy because your God is holy, because Hashem is holy. And this is the path, in my opinion. This is kind of what we've been doing for the past year and a half here, at least, directly, acutely. Um, or we should wrap it up soon. In the very letters of Torah that the person utters, and in the Torah, and in the Torah wisdom that he comprehends, he's got to comprehend it, okay? Because that's the vessel. He is the vessel. If it's a small little pint of wisdom, that's fine. You've only got a pint-sized vessel. If you got a gallon-sized vessel, then take the gallon of Torah knowledge, whatever. It doesn't matter. I mean, it matters, but I mean, when it comes to like what you should be doing, it doesn't matter. You just do your utmost. You just do as much as you can. As explained in chapter 4, I just mentioned chapter 4. As explained in chapter 4, the divine will clothed itself in the ink and parchment of Torah. So the Torah is the enclosed divine will and wisdom of Hashem, the ink and the parchment of the Torah scroll, and similarly clothed itself in the wisdom of Torah. Thus, when the wisdom of the Torah determines that a certain object is either kosher or invalid, not kosher, it is expressing the divine will. This is permittable. This is prohibited, etc. This or that. You're now understanding the concepts of the wisdom of Hashem. Accordingly, before a person commences his Torah study, he should ponder on how the Ein Sof light, the Or Ein Sof, The divine will is vested in the letters and wisdom of the Torah he is now about to study. I just want to keep on reading, but there's a lot. Um, I think that's a good place to stop, I guess. We might have to back up a little bit. We'll probably back up to here for next week and read that. So, does anybody have any questions? Um, I hope everybody's having a good Sukkot or just a little vacation. But I appreciate you all.
Thank you, James.
Thank you, Ernestine. I appreciate you being here. You sound better. I'm glad sounds like you're all
Yes.
healed up. Good, thank God. All righty, everybody. Well, thank you all for joining. I really appreciate it. And hope you guys got something out of it. And
Thanks, James. I appreciate it.
hey, Zach, thanks for joining, bud. I appreciate
Yeah.
your
Thank you.
conversations. Have a good one.
Yeah. We'll
Thank
Talk
talk
you,
later.
later.
Jamie.
Hey, thank you, Ernestine and Sue and Archie. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Yes.
James.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Hey, no problem. Be well.
You too.